Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of If I Knew Then, Mom Edition. I am your host, Maria, and today we actually are putting a little twist to this podcast. We have an amazing guest, Alex, and we're here to talk about just dads, and what they go through as well in the postpartum stage. So, hi, Alex. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Maria, for inviting me. And apologies, everybody. I'm not a mom. I'm a dad, but hopefully my perspective will be useful for you all.
Oh, I'm pretty sure it will because, like I was telling you before, I think it's so important for us as moms to also hear what's going on with dads
Yeah,
because dads are also very left behind in a lot of things, and we're not very aware about what's going on. So thank you.
yeah, you're welcome.
So tell us about, your fatherhood journey, you know.
Real time, look into it because my son has a question for me, or he's handing me a water bottle. Thanks, bud. Thank you, bud. This is a part of life that I continue to experience and enjoy. My son, he's 10 years old. My daughter is 14. And one of the things I learned very early on was constant interruption. The way that I want things is not the way it's going to be. And I'll share you the two experiences right between the two kids. So obviously my daughter being the oldest one, first time being a dad, a father, a caretaker of sorts. And that brought a challenge of, I would say, really me being immature because everything's about the baby and you hear it so often. Everything's going to change once you have the baby and you hear it, but when you experience it, it's like, oh, but it's, there's nothing's the same anymore. Like this is it. You have this little football baby you have to carry around. And I found myself being a bit jealous because you get the phone calls like, oh my goodness, congratulations. How's the baby? And how's the baby doing? And is the baby all right? And like, well, what about me? Right. And that's immature, it's selfish in a way, but that's when you're in a state of not being arrested, of my wife being on bed rest, trying to help her recover from, she had C-sections with both kids. And it was a challenge, right? Of just, oh my goodness, 2 a.m. This kid again, like there's no sick days. I realized that pretty quickly that, I'm dad even when I don't feel good. I'm dad even when I'm feeling down. Okay, I gotta man up, as they say, and get through it. So that was an interesting adjustment. Those first couple of weeks of being exhausted, and also this identity of, all right, Alex is second now. Dad is number one. The baby, our daughter Jules, like she's the queen, right? Even though she's the little princess, but like she's the main star. I'm the background star, and it's weird to be someone who's like, hey, I'm at the forefront. I'm number one. And now I'm like number three on the picking list. So that was an interesting adjustment with my son. The reason I'd connected with you, that experience was a lot different. There was a lot of things happening in my world. So my mom, she had, this rewind time now, but this October 2014, we found out we're going to be pregnant, the baby's coming. My mom winds up having a fall. She breaks her leg. She's in nursing homes and rehab facilities. All that to say, from October to April, she declined and wound up passing away 3 days after my son was born. So trying to picture, our daughter's a preschooler at this time, right? Now we got a newborn and I'm a grieving son. I've got this complicated relationship with my mother, and all this is happening in this week. So it was definitely heavily emotional. I was uh, not in a good space to really be loving and honestly kind of adopting that man mentality of, all right, the show goes on, right? There's no time to really grieve. There's no time to process things for myself. I gotta go. Like my wife is in recovery again, right? She's on bed rest. I'm trying to build a business at the time. I'm When I'm getting fired from my full-time job a few months later. So, 10 years ago, 2015 was just like one of those years of like the sledgehammer, bang, bang. Everything that could go wrong was going wrong. And, having this beautiful little baby boy, but having this, my heart was just like done at that point, right? It's just it was hard to reconcile all these different feelings of guilt and regret with my mom, and then have this baby, have pay attention to my daughter, take care of my wife, and then oh yeah, where's space for me? And I think maybe for fathers out there, they may be feeling the same way, like, and there's no space for me. And kind of like you mentioned offline, like, hey, we might retreat or escape into our video games. We got to retreat into the gym or something like that to just bring some order, right? I don't call it balance, but just kind of bring some harmony to what we're experiencing. So that's a quick snapshot of what I was, what my experiences were like as far as the babies being born and then the follow up to that.
Yeah, I mean, that is, with so we had a miscarriage before our rainbow baby, and I hit postpartum depression. And so I started going to therapy, and my therapist was like, "Why don't you invite your husband to be here so that way he can hear what's going on with you?" So I was like, "Okay, perfect idea." My husband was totally up for it. He came with me. And that is when I learned that dads can also go through postpartum depression.
Mm.
And I was like, "But wait," like obviously, being, not knowledgeable that that can even be a thing, especially if we haven't had any kids yet, right? And so it was wild to me because that is something that nobody talks about. And it's not information that's out there, and I think it's so important for all of us to be able to talk about, fathers also going through postpartum depression, and I can only imagine what you went through with grief, like, having that caregiver. You have to take care of your wife, you have to take care of your daughter, you have to make sure that you're also there for your son, and then you're also grieving, and there's so many things that you're just like you said, like, that year must have been, like, one hell of a year, but I'm pretty sure at this point, hopefully things have gotten better and,
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah, they're definitely better. Got a great relationship with both the kids, my wife. And we're doing well, thriving. But I'm able to speak about it now, right? Because it's a scar versus a wound. If you had asked me if we had linked up 2016, I'd have been like a, a complete mess. But we go through these things. I'm a man of faith. I believe that God puts all these challenges in front of us for a reason. They become the the testimony, the strength of who we are, right? We're resilient people. We find a way to carry on and move on. That's, I think, the best thing about humanity in the nudge in that little capsules, like, hey, we will always find a way, no matter what.
yeah, that is very true. And, you know, what are some things like if, dads out there that are listening or moms, that are listening, what are some things that you would want for somebody to know about, the like postpartum and like depression and how to actually help dads or acknowledge the fact that, because at the end of the day, I can only think about, us moms, at least most is, there's certain situations, but most moms tend to have the bit like we carry the babies, and you already have the mentality of like, okay, this is my child, right? Or you already have the automatic connection usually, right? But then I can only imagine as dads because even my dad, like my husband would tell other like his friends and things like that, like the connection is not really there. And he was like, "Yeah, I mean, I love my kid because I know that's my kid, but that's as far the connection as it went." And so he was worried about, not having that type of unconditional love that every single parent out there talks about and whatever. And as they got older, their personalities are showing, and he tells them that like, it's okay to not feel that joy or that happiness or, things like that because at the end of the day, the kids get older and you start building a certain relationship with your kids.
Yeah, that's a good point. And not to feel that pressure of like, oh my, like something's wrong with me. It's not almost similar to like a mother who's breastfeeding, like, oh, the baby's not latching. Well, I'm not heart latching. I'm not emotionally latching on. Um, with that, I just go back to my daughter with like that postpartum, that experience of thinking to myself, like, right, just kind of always being like on edge, on tense, and plus in our situation, I was working two jobs at the same time, so 6 in the morning, right, or up really at 5 in the morning, get to work at 6, work at this gym for a few hours, then go to the regular full time gigs, right? So I'm out from 6 to 10, and then come back. all right, here's the baby. And you almost want to like, I don't have any hair, right? I ripped all mine out. My baby's, I'm kidding. But you're kind of thinking to yourself, like, "Hey, can I just get a minute?" But also not putting in perspective, well, my wife's almost been hostage here with the baby in the house by herself, an apartment at the time by herself for the same amount of time, right? So she sees me, all right, break time. I just need a minute. I just need to go wash my face. Right. And I think something that can help a father who's out there is just kind of looking at it from that perspective of like, hey, before you open your mouth, before you kind of let loose that thing that you're not gonna be able to take back, try to step into the shoe. And it's not easy in the heat of the moment, but like just having that empathy, having that compassion, like, okay, she's been going through some stuff too. Her body, her hormones are all out of sorts because of this process that's happened. So, just trying to find that bridge, that relationship, like, all right, yeah, she's going through some stuff too. I'm going through some stuff. How do we take care of this life that we created? And the other side is like, hey, where can I find a few minutes of joy for myself in the day, right? What is that? And that's gotta be something also that's communicated strongly too. It can't be, all right, the baby's taking a nap, like I'm gonna sneak away to like play. Like, hey, my wife, lady, hey, listen, I just need like 15 minutes, I need 20 minutes, just zone out. Right. I think that clears up a lot of anxiety and tension because say for me, if I see her like sitting around watching a TV show, I'm like, well, doesn't she know that I'm tired? Like, no, she doesn't know that. You have to speak it. You have to tell her. You have to speak up about it and work together as a team. So I know I was kind of long winded, but I got on a rant there. But that's that's what was useful for me.
No, you know what? At the end of the day, it is true. Like know, at least with my husband and I, we have always made sure that we have a communication. So I still remember, like, my hormones were so out of whack with my first pregnancy that he would play video games, and mind you, I should be like, I was sleeping, but he would be like playing, so that way I didn't feel upset. But I wake up and he was playing, and I will get upset. Like, why are you playing and why are you not in bed? Like it was just those type of crazy hormones that you're just like kind of not rational about, like, why are you making me go to bed if you're the one that's sleepy, not me, type of thing. But the good thing is, like, you're 100% right. You have to have that type of communication, like at the end of the day, at least us as women, we have what we need to do, the kids, what they need, the house, the dog, the cat, the this, the that. And just like it's an ongoing list. And even though you guys tend to also, we tend to put you guys before us a lot of times. That is one of the reasons, at least for me, that we get upset that we're just like, can't you see that I just gave you some minutes? Like, you were in the bathroom for like 20 minutes there. Like, I don't understand why you can't come out and just start helping automatically. And so it's just a lack of communication. I don't, in my opinion, or what I have experienced, that, if my husband tells me, hey, coming home before he even get home, hey, I had a hard day, or hey, I have a headache, or something, I need some minutes once I get home. That right there gives me enough time to at least mentally and emotionally prepare or embrace myself, so that way I know when he comes home, he gets the time that he needs, he comes out and he's ready to go. And the
Yeah.
same thing, And yeah, communication is key because if, any dad that's listening, communicate, if you're having rage, because, or that jealousy, it's normal. I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of people call moms and be like, "Hey, how's the baby? I don't want to talk to you." And that's something that you hear all the time. "I don't want to talk to you. I want to see the baby." And you're like, "Thanks." Like my mom told me, she was like, she'll look at my daughter, like my first daughter, and she was like, "You're the best thing that has ever happened to me." And I'm looking at her kind of like,
Hmm.
"I'm your firstborn here." Like, excuse.
Chopped liver now.
Yeah, so I would start laughing about it, but it's just kinda like it's just crazy how we don't those are things that are not talked about. Nobody tells you really how that they tell you like, "Oh, yeah, this happens," but they don't tell you like, "Hey, it's normal for you to feel that way." What to do with those type of feelings, like, and
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you were very exhausted.
Yeah, it's stressful, and you have people, your parents, if you have siblings, if you have those, right, all, community members, neighbors, you're second place, third place now. You're down this peg line, and it's irritating, right? It's like, well, like I'm taking care of the thing, like no, right? It's almost The idea of like, well, where's my confetti and champagne? Shouldn't I get pampered and rewarded and extra attention from me? And that's a silly, selfish thing, but it's but it is. We're born with that, and I want to be acknowledged. I want to be recognized. I want people to say good things about me. What a good parent! That's one of the best compliments. I don't know if that's you have the same feelings. Like, wow, your son, your daughter, they're such a good kid. Like, yeah, they are because of me.
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is, like, I don't think it's silly because I think it's a completely normal type of feeling that I'm pretty sure most to all get it. It's just most of us are very like we don't want to admit it
Yeah,
because, at the end of the day, like you said, it sounds like it's selfish, but at the end of the day, we're all human. We all want that type of acknowledgement of like, hey, you know what, you're working really hard. Thank you. Or have that type of like, you're doing a good job. We all need that. Doesn't matter what age you are in, at the end of the day, like, hey, you're doing good. Right. And so, once again, having that type of communication or having that type of clarity with another person, it it can go a long way. It can definitely go a long way. Something that my husband would talk about was like in his past relationships that he never got appreciated or never felt appreciated. And that's something that I was like, oh, okay, noted. Make sure that because at the end of the day, it also depends on the different types of love languages, right?
yeah,
And how is it that you will feel appreciated, you know? And so I personally don't think it's silly. I think it's a completely normal type of um feeling. And I can only imagine dads because you go from having a wife that's pregnant to I have a baby. Like,
right.
it's just from one day to the next for you guys. Like, that you have the idea and that's going on and things like that. But I can only imagine of like, here you go, this is yours.
Yeah.
Thanks. Now what do I do?
Yeah, that was kind of one of our feelings, with our daughter Jules. We spent whatever 2, maybe 3 days in the hospital, then sent home. And I'm like, they're getting ready to bring us home. Like, oh, you need this. I'm like, wait, are you coming with us? No, I'm sorry. Like, we can open up we'll find you a bed. Like, we can stay here. Just please help. But yeah, it's interesting. Just I'm going through the memories right now, going down the hallway and putting the car seat in. Like, oh, is this right? Is baby gonna like go sideways and fling around, or making sure it's really sturdy? So they have the classes, the Lamaze training and all the baby prep, but kind of going back to the point, that real firsthand experience of doing it, of that first 1 a.m. cry, and then 3 a.m. cry, and then 7 a.m. cry. Like, oh my goodness, how do you handle that? And it's the day in process, and for men, it's not as I don't say acceptable, but it's not as promoted with support groups, or just having conversations with another father. Like, hey, man, I'm having a rough day. Like, any words of wisdom, any advice, anything you can just kind of coach me on for that. Because I'm having this situation, I'm having these feelings, and I just need somebody to hear it. And I think that kind of goes back to that point about being acknowledged, right? Just being seen, being heard, being valued. I think that's the in my experience, that's been very important for me to receive, and also make sure I communicate to my wife, to my kids, because I think most people think of an acknowledgement or appreciation as a big, grandiose thing. Like, hey, there's a blimp in the sky and it's got her name on it, and the fireworks, and it could just be as simple as like you said, hey, I see what you're doing. Thank you. Even just a hug for a few extra seconds, not just all right, man, like really embrace. Those type of things are the moments that last with people. Like, yeah, when someone could say, like, yeah, I feel loved by my partner, I feel loved by my kids, my dad loves me, my mom loves me. Like, that's something you can't tangibly touch, right? It's an experience.
Yeah. Now, my last question for you, is there anything that you wish you would have either had or would have done before becoming a dad? God, that's funny. We have 2 girls and yeah, we're done. We're done.
Yeah.
Like, my husband is just we had a kinda like an agreement done before kinda like before we got married of like, after we have kids, like, he gets the vasectomy done because we're like, we wanna make sure that's done, done. And so people are telling like, "Do you want the 3rd?" "No." "Oh,
Yeah.
what if it's a boy?" No. Like, and I was a teacher for over 6 years, and I've
Oh
worked
my
with kids.
goodness.
And I wish it was 20 kids. I had 67 high schoolers. And then when I taught middle school, I had a classroom of almost 47, almost 50 kids. Yeah. Because art. I taught art. So at the end of the day, they're like, "Ah, you can have them
Okay.
all." But I personally always loved them. I love preteens. I love teenagers. I guess some people call us masochists, the ones that love that type of age group. But they're just big toddlers. That's all they are. They're just big kids that they just want to be heard, loved, and be seen. That's all they really are. And we forget that because they just have big bodies now.
Yeah.
So that's my thing. But at the end of the day, I think that we should be able to have those conversations. I would love for dads to be able to feel comfortable or have some type of support or feel like comfortable to have these conversations. One day maybe your son will want to be a dad or he becomes a dad and he was not expecting it. And it'll be awesome for him to be able to come to you, be like, hey, like, I'm freaking out.
Yeah.
They're gonna have, I'm gonna have a baby and I don't know what? Like what does it? And so it's important to have these conversations, especially if you do have sons. Like, at the end of the day, it's like, hey, you know, I got you. Have some type of backup because I can only imagine how like motherhood alone is very lonely. Yeah,
Mm.
being a stay-at-home mom becomes even lonelier because you're at home.
Yeah.
And so there's the argument of like, oh, but stay-at-home moms, you're at home and the husband comes home and we hear like, "Here's the kids," and we don't stop talking and whatever, and it's just kinda like you've only been socializing with a 2-year-old. So, so I think those are really, like, good conversations just to have, and like you said, I'm pretty sure when that was happening, you would have probably not wanted to talk about any of this. Yeah. So before we go, first of all, thank you for being here. And second of all, if there's anybody that wants to get in touch with you, how can they reach out to you? Awesome. Thank you so much. I'll be posting, send me all those links and I'll be posting it here. And yeah, thank you so much. And if this resonates with you or anybody else and you're listening, please give a like, a follow, and share this with any parent that needs this and probably needs to hear this. And I think we all do at the end of the day. But if you do know especially a dad that's going through it and you see it, but he's not speaking out, let him listen to this episode. And I'm pretty sure it will help out in the long run. So thank you again for being here.